Today on Sports Central, we go over our next team projection of this offseason, and this who are the Boise State Broncos, a team that went 5-2 overall in the 2020 season. Overall, this team did not have a terrible season. They ended up being the second team overall in the Mountain West last year, just behind San Jose State. How Boise State be in 2021 is what we're going over here today. We're going to go over a few players that Boise State will be losing, who they'll be returning, and also look at their schedule for the first time this offseason, starting out with your previous 6 games, which for this team, of course, they only played 7 games last year, but definitely not a terrible season, though, once again, for this team. They beat Air Force 49-30, lost to BYU 17-51. That was a terrible game there, probably the worst game of the year by far for Boise State. They beat Colorado State 51-21, beat Hawaii by 8. 40-32. Also beat Wyoming 17-9. They lost to San Jose State then to finish out the season 20-34. So, I mean, San Jose State was actually a very big surprise team last season. They played outstanding, and it was a big standout year for them. I mean, I'm not sure that San Jose State is going to be quite as good next year as they were in this past season, but Boise State definitely, I think, should reclaim the throne of the Mountain West going into next season, or they should at least be favored to do so. Just because of how good of returning production they got, which is what we're going over next. I mean, this team is returning just about every one of their skill players. I mean, Hank Beckmeyer, he's coming back. He was their quarterback, obviously. Your starting quarterback last season. He put up just over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, also a 61% completion rate. He did not have a terrible season by any means for Boise State. So you're going to want to watch out for him next season as he comes into an experienced year. I mean, he's definitely more of an experienced quarterback going into next season for sure. I mean, he's been with Boise State for a couple of years now. Andrew Van Buren is coming back as well. He was their top running back last year, put up just over 470 yards, 8 touchdowns as well. George Holani is also coming back, so you got both of your top running backs coming back for next season. Khalil Shakir is coming back. C.T. Thomas, same thing with Riley Smith. So all 3 of your top receivers, along with your tight end there, and Riley Smith, are all coming back. So Boise State all around, once again, offensively looks outstanding. I mean, they do lose one on the offensive line, 1 defensive lineman, 1 linebacker, but otherwise this team looks really good on both sides of the ball going into next season. So once again, I mean, just looking at your returning production, that's a great reason to believe that the Broncos will be right back to being an outstanding team next season. Like, this team is always at the top of the Mountain West, and I think that's going to continue going into next season. Like, I mean, this team should reclaim their throne just based off of the returning production going into next season. But chances of improvement in 2021, I'd say, are very high for this team. Once again, I really like your quarterback situation, and I also like all your skill players in general. So I'd say, yeah, the chances of improvement are pretty high. Will Boise State win the Mountain West? Once again, very high chance. I mean, San Jose State was a really good team last season, but I think that was just one really good season out of them. I don't really expect them to be a contender moving forward into next season. I mean, they'll probably be a good team, but I don't expect them to, by any means, come out and win the conference again. I mean, they got good returning production as well, but San Jose State's losing a lot more going into next season in comparison to Boise State here. But looking at your schedule for next season, you start off the season on a road trip to Central Florida to play UCF. That'll be a tougher matchup there. Then you got UTEP, should be an easy win in that matchup. Then you got Oklahoma State. Should be an interesting matchup there. That's going to be at home. So you got the Cowboys coming to town. Then you go to Utah State. Nevada comes to town after that. Then you go to BYU is what I should say. Then you got Air Force. You got a bye week after that Air Force game. Then you get Colorado State and Fresno State on the road. You got Wyoming, then New Mexico, and then to finish out your season, you got San Diego State. So for the first half of your schedule, at least, I'd say, I mean, obviously UCF could be a tougher matchup just because it's on the road there. But otherwise, I'd say UTEP and Nevada should be 2 guaranteed wins. Nevada was okay last season. They were a decent team, so that could come to be a closer matchup, but I'd probably favor Boise State pretty heavily just because of how much Nevada is losing going into next season. UTEP should be a win, though, pretty easily. That's definitely a guaranteed win for your 2021 schedule. UCF's going to be a close one just because it's on the road. Oklahoma State's always good. Utah State should be good. BYU, I don't think BYU is going to be quite as good next season just because, of course, I mean, when you're losing as major of a player as Zach Wilson is, I mean, it's going to be tough for BYU to handle that. But I definitely think BYU should still be a winning team next season. But Boise State, I'm going to say Boise State's the favorite for me right now in that matchup, but it could come to be a close one. As for the second half of your season, then you got Air Force after that. Should be a closer one there. Colorado State, Fresno State, both. I'm definitely favoring the Broncos in, but I'm going to keep it as both as yellow games for now. Wyoming, New Mexico, both wins. Both of those are at home. And then you got San Diego State to finish out the season. Also a closer matchup there. just because it's on the road. So, I mean, overall for Boise State, your schedule is not terrible. I mean, you got a couple of tougher matchups here. I mean, you could note that Oklahoma State's a tougher one. UCF on the road could be a tougher one there. San Diego State even could be a tougher one. But ceiling is still 12-0. I definitely think that there's a possibility that you go undefeated next season through the regular season. I mean, 12-0 is a possibility for this team. My projection personally is 11-1. I mean, 11-1 would still be an outstanding season. Like, this is a Boise State team with the skill of a Pac-12 team. Like, I mean, this team could easily get along if they were in the Pac-12, in my opinion. And I mean, that's something that I've advocated for quite a while, is having Boise State in the Pac-12. I think that would be an outstanding move, but that's a whole different video. But Boise State definitely, I think, is a team that should definitely be on the top, or in the top of the Mountain West next year. Projection will be 11-1, so I am giving you guys one loss down the stretch, probably to either UCF, Oklahoma State, or maybe Utah State. Who knows? Maybe even San Diego State, who knows? But I definitely think you'll take at least one loss. I think one loss is definitely reasonable, but then again, I mean, 12-0 is still pretty reasonable, I'd say, for Boise State. Your floor is going to be 9-3, so that's the worst possible record that you could have next season. So really, nothing much to worry about going into next season if you're a Boise State fan. Once again, you got great returning production all around. This team looks excellent going into next season, and it should be a fun one for Boise State. But that being said, that'll wrap up my projections on Boise State for next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the Broncos. Let me know your record predictions and all that down in the comments. Once again, projection for Boise State is 11-1, and I appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys all later.